Welcome to the Baseball Insiders, the only baseball podcast that had the Reds winning the Central in our preseason predictions. Don't watch that episode. Just trust us. I'm Adam Weiner alongside Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray, who's back from break, here to talk biz with us. How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. I'm back. I'm still in Sheboygan Falls, so this is kind of like a throwback to when we first started the Baseball Insiders. But good to be back. How are you doing, man? How much did you miss me?
I miss you a ton. I'm doing good. I'm also in Sheboygan Falls, so look out for that. I think I'm actually pretty close. Yeah, no, I'm at home. And I will be. We talked about this. I'm going to be in San Francisco on Thursday. So no live episode on Thursday. I'll be at the Giants Padres game. If anybody is there and wants to say what's up, I've never been to the ballpark. I was told not to call it Oracle because I'll look like a tourist, but you know what? I'm pretty confident I look like a tourist anyway, so not really helping me there. If anybody has ballpark tips, drop them off. But that means we are dropping content on Thursday anyway. I hinted last week we were going to have an interview with a Red Sox player. We did. It was Adam Duvall of the Boston Red Sox. We'll talk about them surging a little bit later in the episode. He was the nicest guy alive, and I had some like fun kind of tweaks queued up being a Yankee fan, and I just like couldn't really get him out because I was like, you're just like a kind soul. So you guys will hopefully enjoy that on Thursday. I mean, we enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, it was a freaking blast. He could not have been nicer. He gave us some really cool answers, by the way. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, that was a really good interview. You know what? Team high five, Adam. Good job.
Yeah. Team high five. And I promised him on the way out, I was like, I actually do wish you good luck. I promise I'm not kidding. But I mean, look, I hope he hits 580, and I hope the rest of the Red Sox all retire mid-game, and that's it, honestly. But yeah, good. Adam Duvall's too nice for me to hate. That was the one thing I didn't get to ask him. Everybody will see was I wanted to ask him like, why I don't hate you. Why should I hate you? What? Give me a reason to hate you. I'm ready for. I'm like wide open to it. Just let me know. And he, I mean, it was going so well that I didn't want to throw a weird little grenade in there. But yeah, I don't think there's really a reason that anybody should despise that man specifically.
No, he's a very good dude. I'm glad Adam didn't try to poke in the bear. It was a very wholesome conversation, by the way. That was, yeah, it was a very wholesome thing. It's like it was a Wisconsin conversation, so you gotta like that.
Yeah, but again, both of us are in Wisconsin. No, I mean I guess he's in Minnesota, being getting ready to slug in the rest of that series. If you have an opinion on that series, Red Sox Twins, or maybe you believe in the Giants or the Reds to finally get the job done, we've got an offer for you and an awesome promo for new Bet365 users. All you have to do is deposit $10, place a $1 wager on any sport. You will instantly receive $200 added to your account in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. All you got to do, use that code BASEBALLIN at sign up. By using the code BASEBALLIN, you see it right there on your screen. If you're streaming along with us, you not only receive the $200 in bonuses, but you will also be directly supporting this podcast. So if you haven't signed up for Bet365, join with the code BASEBALLIN and place that first bet. This offer is available for new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in most legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. And if you and I were gambling before the season, we would have lost a ton of money on these St. Louis Cardinals, who have vacillated over the last couple of weeks between being probable sellers to possible sellers. Maybe they're making a comeback to now they could be mega sellers. And so we're going to break down a little bit the players who could easily be on the market. But now there are basically 5 weeks left for the Cards to determine how extreme they want to go. There's some obvious targets here, potential blockbusters, and then sneaky ones if they want to gut all the way down the roster.
Yeah, this is a very interesting trade deadline for the St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, they still have about 6 weeks or so to try to turn things around. So you can't necessarily we don't know for sure what they're going to do because they don't even know for sure what they're going to do. But I would be absolutely floored if they traded either Paul Goldschmidt or Nolan Arenado. I don't see that being in the cards. I just don't. But they do have some other trade pieces that should be pretty intriguing, and that's going to be Jack Flaherty. There's a lot of teams that need starting pitching, so they could probably use Flaherty. They could really use a guy like Jordan Montgomery, who I think definitely makes a lot of sense as a trade candidate and for teams to check in on him. That being said, I don't know. Like the Cardinals obviously acquired him last year, and they gave up Harrison Bader, who's a meaningful piece. Like that's somebody that the Cardinals liked, but they really liked Montgomery. So I'm curious to see if they'd move him a year later. But with there not being that many players or that many high-end players available, perhaps that forces some team to overpay for a guy like Montgomery. Tyler O'Neill, I mean, we've mentioned him as a trade candidate many, many, many times here. One team that I have heard and I've said on the podcast before that likes O'Neill is the Brewers. Don't necessarily know the likelihood there because that's an in-division trade, of course. And this is one that I didn't necessarily think of, and I want to give Adam a little bit of a hat tip for this one, is Giovanni Gallegos. He's signed cheaply for the next, 2.5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like controllable and cheap relievers, especially ones who have the talent of Gallegos. That could definitely like get a decent haul in return for sure. So the Cardinals, they have plenty of pieces here, and it's going to be up to John Mozeliak to determine just how aggressive they want to be. But if they end up selling and they move some of those pieces we just mentioned, I mean, obviously not named Goldschmidt or Arenado, they could be one of the more impactful teams at the deadline.
Jordan Hicks is another one you mentioned just because, I think he's heating up. I don't think you can rule out trading any reliever who isn't tied down, especially if you are struggling the way they are. Early in the season, Hicks was sort of a DFA candidate. We were all talking about maybe you funnel another talented arm to the Dodgers machine. Someone can harness this 104-mile-an-hour cheddar. Now, all of a sudden, he's kind of doing it on his own with the Cardinals, but they're falling so far off the pace. Jordan Montgomery, I do feel like I'm glad we brought him up because, the Yankees were never going to deal him in the division. But now that he's taken a stop in St. Louis, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Orioles maybe target him as a midseason option this year. And then he feels like a prime candidate to me, no matter where he goes, to sign with the Cardinals again this offseason. It feels like you can easily pull that yo-yo with Jordan Montgomery, where it's like, we're 15 under, we're not kidding ourselves, but we fixed you last year. We upgraded your ceiling a little bit. Maybe you go help somebody else for 2 months and come right on back here. Because I think you're right. I think they don't trade Harrison Bader for him unless they believe in him. And the proof was in the pudding last year. They definitely, upgraded his ceiling and his arsenal and his pitch mix. He wasn't a 4 or 5 starter. He was a 2-3 in St. Louis. So maybe, the Orioles made those patchwork additions this offseason. Kyle Gibson and a lot of 4s in that rotation, but they're still leading the wild card picture. I feel like Montgomery with that AL East experience and the upgraded version of Montgomery makes a lot of sense there. And then he could just kind of go right back.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing is obviously the Orioles make a whole lot of sense there. And the Cardinals, right now they need starting pitching. They need starting pitching badly. Like their starting rotation it's in dire need of arms. So if they trade him and they move maybe a guy like Jack Flaherty, they're really going to need some help. And in the offseason, surely they're going to be after starting pitchers. Obviously, with Montgomery being available, that would make a reunion there makes a whole lot of sense. So I don't think we can close the door on that necessarily. But yeah, it's that is one that the Cardinals really they screwed up on. And I don't know if they'd even admit it publicly, but they did. They thought they had their arms in-house to get through the season, and they thought it was going to end up being in good shape. That was a miscalculation, and that, among other things, is a big reason why they are where they are now. And as obviously a burner said, the Cincinnati Reds have designated Will Myers for assignment. Redding was kind of on the wall for that one. That was an offseason signing that did not work out, but I mean, he's not going to be claimed because he was signed a $7.5 million deal in the offseason. But when he becomes a free agent and signs for the veterans minimum, maybe the Dodgers?
Maybe the Padres? I mean, those are the
it's out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are the tough ones when the Will Myers notification was like, Will Myers has been returned from his rehab assignment today and DFA'd. Like you got to read all the way to the end of the tweet. It's like, oh, he's healthy and gone. It's like,
there he goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. He's ready to contribute to the hottest team in the Central. And no, sadly, he's going to go somewhere else. We will talk about the Reds in a little bit. I just think it's funny that the Cardinals now have this opportunity to sort of own the trade deadline in the way that for weeks we've been watching the White Sox, of course, the Brewers potential. They're sort of teetering on the edge there, but they've got the most impactful pieces in Burns and Adames. Now all of a sudden the Cardinals can look, they can go small, they can go Gallegos, and that's it, or Monty, or they can go Arenado and Goldschmidt. We don't think they're going to, but they could really they could make this a boring trade deadline, or they could make it the craziest since the Scherzer deal.
Oh, they absolutely could. Like that, if they traded either one of those two, it would turn the trade deadline upside down. But I think it's more likely that I'd date Taylor Swift than either one of those two are traded.
Well, she's single, so there's a chance.
I would drop everything for T Swift. If T Swift, if you're watching the Baseball Insiders right now, hit me up, please. Boy, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You got to shoot your shot.
She's got a new song, "Hey Rob," "Dear Rob." So it's good stuff.
I'm telling you, get ready.
Just dropped. It just dropped.
I'll I'll say this too. Justin, you're not wrong, by the way, man. That's you're not wrong. If Jack Flaherty goes, I think the Dodgers make sense there, considering their need for starting rotation help and also his connections to that area. I think that would be something that is really enticing to him, especially when he becomes a free agent. I think that might be one to keep an eye on more in the offseason, but I guess you never know. I know we're going to be talking about the Dodgers here in a little bit, but yeah, Adam, is there anything else you wanted to touch on with the Cardinals here?
No. I was just saying, we don't know yet if the Cardinals are going to be forever, or if they're going to go down in flames. And if they do go down in flames, then they'll probably blow up the trade deadline. Shout out to Lance Lynn, too, by the way. We can't make any declarations about Lance Lynn being back, but while we were paying attention to Dylan Cease, he did strike out 16 Mariners this week. And I think I've talked a lot about how, hey, I don't know if anybody wants to buy low on a guy with a 6.75 ERA. This at least changes the conversation a little bit. Maybe we get another arm in the midseason mix.
Oh, absolutely. And because Lance Lynn at the start of the year looked like a complete shell of what he had previously been. And he was a durable and dependable starter for the White Sox. And if he can build off of this 16 strikeout outing, obviously he's not going to strike out 16 guys every outing, but if he can turn in quality starts, eat innings, and limit the runs that he gives up, then we're talking definitely adding another arm to this deadline mix. And maybe that increases it would increase the haul that the White Sox would get, because it didn't look like they'd be able to get much for him in return. But he's somebody certainly that they're going to hope continues to build off of this, especially with Mike Clevenger's injury. I think he avoided a super serious injury from what I all gathered. But with Clevenger at least shelved for now, they need Lynn to step up and increase that trade value for sure.
Well, let's go to the surging teams, because it's more fun to talk about the good than the bad, although obviously everybody tunes in for us pummeling on bad baseball teams and picking them apart like vultures and sending people to different clubs at the trade deadline. But a couple teams that you maybe would have thought would be in the cellar bucket now, not so much. The San Francisco Giants, playoff spot, wild card spot right now, 8 in a row. And the Boston Red Sox, at least on the verge of the wild card mix. Both of them encountered their rivals this weekend. The Giants at Dodger Stadium and the Yankees at Fenway. Both pile drive their rivals, steamrolled. The Yankees without Aaron Judge, it's honestly not even totally worth having a substantive conversation, because then you get into Yankees philosophy and you're like, shouldn't you have more depth? But you don't. But Aaron Judge is out. I mean, they look horrible, and the Red Sox destroyed them, and they're averaging 2 runs a game without Judge. But the Dodgers, I think people had certainly higher hopes for a couple weeks ago, until the Giants just went into town with their young talent. Mato's coming up looking great, and there may be more young talent on the way there. Before we diagnose the Dodgers, I think we just got to give a little kudos to the Sox and the Giants, who may both be getting themselves into the playoff conversation.
Yeah. Obviously, the Red Sox were not a team that I necessarily thought were going to be contending, and I was far from alone in that thought. And they've had a very strong stretch lately, and basically a really good season to this point. They're 38 and 35. I know they're in last place, I mean, but they're still like they're only 12 games out. They're only 1.5 games back of the Yankees, who are in third.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely have a shot at getting one of those wild card spots. And if you look at the Giants, it's been they've been surging since all these young guys came up. Patrick Bailey has been just awesome behind the plate for them, and they had Matos obviously, and they got they're veterans that are stepping up too. Sean Manaea, since he got moved to the bullpen, has been very good too. He's been pitching like as one of their long arms out of the pen. He's been very good and seems like he's kind of found his niche there. And you teased that they may have somebody coming up in the near future. And I see obviously a burner asking when Kyle Harrison is coming up. There are strong indications that he will probably be invited to the Futures game in Seattle in early July. My guess is that he's up anywhere from after the All-Star break to the trade deadline. That is going to be my guess, and when he's called up, somewhere in that window. And we're talking about one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. We're talking about the Giants' best pitching prospect since Madison Bumgarner. This guy is a certified stud. And they've been building up his arm in the minors. He's been pitching in 5 innings. He's been pitching 5 innings now, which is more than he was previously doing. And he's controlling the ball. He's recording a lot of strikeouts. If he does not overthink this or if he doesn't overthink on the mound and try to aim and just lets his stuff do what it does, he's going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball before too long. He is that good.
I'm extremely excited. I watched him in the Futures game last year, so this would be 2 consecutive invites if he does get the call in. He was disgusting last season. So I guess up soon enough, probably, but not soon enough for me to get a jersey on Thursday. That's what you're saying, which I don't really know who I'm going to get. I would love Tyro Estrada, but I don't know if they'll be selling that.
You never know. You never know. I am jealous though that you're going to AT&T. I'm going to call it AT&T.
It's right now it's Oracle, but I was specifically told don't call it that, and so I'm like, I don't know. I'm probably going to call it that. I already look like an idiot. Like I'm going to be getting on the train with like sunscreen down my nose and like a safari hat, being like, "Where's the Metro card?" So like everyone's going to know I'm a dumbass. So I might as well call it Oracle.
I love that you already have this mapped out. That's that's prime tourism though, having the big white suntan lotion on your nose.
People keep flagging me down, telling me that my nose has suntan lotion, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? No, I need to be protected. I can't rub it in. It's SPF 3000.
I don't know why that made me think of Danny Tanner from Full House. That just sounded like something that he would do. I don't know if you're a Full House guy, but I don't know. It just popped into my head.
San Francisco show, isn't it? Like you can go see their house. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think people forgot that one. Yeah, that's. Yeah. By the way, you're going to see more than likely Logan Webb. So according to my dad, at least, I told my dad's tuning in. I think he's tuning in from the living room. So shout out to my dad.
He's upstairs. He could come on, but no, he doesn't have to come on. Maybe we'll see how.
No, I'll tell you, I was hanging with him before the show, and he desperately wanted to come on, and I'm just like, no, you're not going to do that. But.
No. Well, I mean, I hope you had a good Father's Day weekend. We talked about this. I was on the Cape with my dad watching Cape League ball Friday night. Saturday we were supposed to go to games. They all got rained out. Epic. Created a Yankees doubleheader sweep on Sunday. Cool. Good for me. Love spending time with my dad watching the Yankees get their brains beaten in at Fenway Park. But I mean, they're not really solvable right now. They're just not good. The Dodgers probably need to fix this though, because Yankees are getting Judge back. The Dodgers are getting Urias back, but they're not getting a whole rotation back. They're not getting a whole bullpen back. I mean, it's conventional wisdom. They're going to have to shop for arms at the deadline, but like you and I just want to underscore that. Like they really, truly need to do some work or pack it in.
And I don't see them packing it in. That does not sound like something that that front office is going to do.
No.
And it is really interesting because they do not want, or they have not wanted to part with their top prospects, even dating back to the offseason. And I don't envision them doing that now, just because they want to make sure that their run is going to be sustainable. So it's going to be tricky for them, but they have to add at least 1 or 2 starting pitchers. They also have to add to the bullpen. It's their number one priority. Obviously, like you could look at shortstop as a position that they could try to upgrade to. I do know that one player that they have loved in the past is Willy Adames, and the Brewers have not been willing to do that. But Willy Adames is, I think, when he becomes a free agent, is somebody that's you're going to have to watch for the Dodgers for sure. Especially since I believe there's a connection between Adames and Friedman from their time in Tampa Bay. But yeah, it's for now, the Dodgers' trade deadline focus is going to be pitching, and more pitching.
It's the highest team ERA since they were the Brooklyn Dodgers. So there is something to fix. They have never been this bad in Los Angeles, California. So as much as Andrew Friedman hates trading for big name relievers, hey, I get it. But Jimmy Nelson and Blake Trinan rehabbing and all these guys coming in on flyer deals and Alex Reyes being out for the year, it's not working so far. So I understand that you don't like doing it, but maybe got to do it. And down the freeway, though, the other LA team stealing headlines these days, the Angels, they are an LA team. They're an Anaheim team. They're in a playoff spot right now, too. And that's sort of what leads to us talking about the Red Sox maybe being able to steal a spot, because the AL wild cards are like the Angels, the Yankees, the Blue Jays are there, the Astros. Like, there's no dominant team making me feel great, which is why I think a lot of America's probably rooting for Shohei and Trout to sneak their way in there. And a lot of Dodgers and Padres and Mets fans are probably rooting for them to not do that. Does any of this surging increase the possibility that Ohtani is an Angel long-term? Is there anything that could happen that could convince the Angels to pony up the $500 million?
I don't think they're going to need convinced to do that, because they've been pretty adamant that they want to retain Shohei Ohtani. Their surge definitely helps because it puts them in a position to make the postseason, which is something that Ohtani has not done. And it's been abundantly clear that he wants to go he wants to be on a team that's going to contend. And if the Angels make it, then yeah, that does increase the chances. But I don't see any scenario in which he does not test free agency. Like, he's going to be a free agent. And he's going to end up listening to a lot of these teams. Obviously, there's going to be big market teams. There's going to be teams that contend year in and year out. They're going to be after him. But if the Angels don't make the postseason, then I think there's zero chance he goes back. If they make the postseason, then we can at least entertain that thought. But I won't be able to give a definitive answer on that until obviously after the season. But their surge definitely helps for sure. And speaking of that, the Angels, they're going to want to maximize their chances at the postseason this year. And that is going to mean being aggressive at the deadline. And to their credit, they've been able to surge despite a lot of these injuries that they've had on this roster. And there's certain teams that I've heard that are kind of like standing pat on the trade market for now, like Tigers and Royals, name a couple of teams. It wouldn't necessarily be surprising to see the Angels start to be one of the more aggressive teams on the trade market. That does not mean a trade is going to be done anytime soon, but they're going to want to be aggressive. Artie Moreno wants to retain Shohei Ohtani. Perry Manassian comes from the Alex Anthopoulos tree, and Anthopoulos obviously has proven that he's not afraid to make a deal at any time. So I guess you can't necessarily rule anything out, but I think the Angels are kind of like a sneaky team to watch in the coming weeks here.
Especially because we've got more buyers than sellers at this point. The Royals are out there, the last place A's. Certainly, we've talked in the past about they're at the bottom of the league, so obviously they're not buyers, but is there anybody there who really intrigues you that much? So that's why so much attention's been focused on the White Sox. So much attention's been focused on the Brewers, maybe pulling off some sort of hybrid sell-off. That's why the Cardinals make things so interesting. Because if they're actually willing to go deep here and they could really shake things up. And we've maybe lost a team in the Reds who felt like an interesting seller a couple weeks ago and now lead the Central. They lead the NL Central. So at this point, it feels disrespectful to say, they can find a new home for Nick Senzel to the Dodgers. It all makes sense, but we're going to tell the hottest team in baseball to just start selling off pieces at the end of June. I don't know about that. It kind of feels like the Reds have stolen the Pirates vibe belt. The Pirates tried to counter by calling up Henry Davis yesterday. Still lost 8-0. He's a good ball player. I'm excited to see what he does, but nobody's playing like the Reds right now.
No, and we said this about the Pirates at the start of the year, and we can say it about the Reds now. They lead the league in vibes.
They do.
They're fun, and I mean Ellie De La Cruz. What an absolutely exciting player this guy is. He is. It is remarkable watching him play because obviously, like offensively, stud. We saw that play where he ended up hitting the ball down the first base line. The first baseman got it, and he still beat the first baseman to the bag. Like, how many players actually can do that? Like, hardly any. Actually, he might be one of one in that regard. It's crazy watching that. And obviously, they have Matt McLean. They have a bunch of young players who look really good too, and they also just got this guy back named Joey Votto, who just so happens to be pretty good. And in his first game back, ended up hitting a home run. That was an absolutely crazy night. I was watching his interview with Scott Van Pelt late last night too, and he was just gushing about the team and how they, instead of just being on a rebuilding team, they go out there now and they expect to win. And he said that's been a change from their past teams. And he looks like obviously he's only been back for a little bit, but he looks totally rejuvenated. He looks happy. He looks, yeah, I mean, he looks like the school bus driver. A good shot, obviously, the burner. Like he's leading the kids, and they look like a legitimate threat, not only in that division, but the National League. And we'll see if it's sustainable, but they're fun. And it's probably right up there with one of the more surprising storylines of the entire baseball season so far.
And it's not the time to worry about the future contract extension and him hitting free agency, etc. If you're a Reds fan, you just have to be excited about this now. I understand the game can be cynical sometimes, but this is just pure joy. And Votto being back as the ringleader only adds to that. By the way, there are endless McLeans. At the Cape Cod League game on Friday, I saw Matt McLean's little brother, Nick McLean, make his debut in the league and homer in his first game in the Cape Cod Collegiate, All-Star circuit. So literally these McLeans keep producing more McLeans, and eventually there will be, I don't know, there's another one in the minors. Like this might be the new, LeVar Ball. He's just a guy does nothing but produce quality middle infielders.
Oh God. Well, hopefully there's no, what is it? Is LeVar the dad?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know Mr. McLean's deal, but he should be very proud.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely should be. I mean, obviously we've seen Matt and he looks the part, and obviously he's a top prospect for a reason. So good job to that family. But man, I'll tell you, the Reds, they entering the season, they were kind of an afterthought for me. And obviously we saw their owner's comments before opening day, and he rightfully got ripped. And now they're the most fun team in baseball. And I'm very curious to see exactly how that front office handles the trade deadline and how aggressive they are in trying to upgrade that roster. Like, they obviously have an abundance of infielders or middle infielders. Maybe they could part with some of that depth to upgrade a different part of the roster. They can go in a lot of different directions, but yeah, that is a very fun team. I think that, as I said before, and I'll say it again, they lead the league in vibes.
Enjoy the ride. They're probably not going to win the Rookie of the Year because Corbin Carroll's got that unlocked, but they could finish second, third, fourth, fifth. Like, they could just sweep down that top five.
No, they absolutely could. And I mean, you never know. If there's anyone who could top Corbin Carroll, maybe it's Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, although that being said, Corbin Carroll, he's got a pretty good grasp on it right now. He obviously, that extension he signed was a lot of money, but he looks like he's prepared to earn it and then some here.
If you leave it up to a fan vote, De La Cruz is going to win. But I think Corbin Carroll's probably got it on lock. Just all beasts, though. Who needs to compare beasts? Just be happy that there are beasts everywhere. And I'm happy, Robert, that you're back, that we're back in action. You are the beast of this podcast, and there will be no Baseball Insiders if you were not here to give us high-quality content every week, twice a week, while I dribble all over myself and put sunscreen on my nose. So I appreciate you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. I need you to do me one favor. I need you to travel safe to the Bay Area and enjoy the ball game. And yeah, I appreciate you.
I will do exactly that. I need you to do me one favor. Subscribe to the Baseball Insiders on YouTube. I don't know if you're there yet, but we are so close to being able to provide everybody with some even higher quality content. Yes, it does get better than this podcast, exclusive perks, etc. We'll have plenty for you as the trade deadline approaches. Bet365, you don't have an account yet. Baseball in the promo code. If you're in a legal gambling state, you are able to take full advantage of that promo. All the information is in the episode description. Justin, we enjoy you. We enjoy everybody showing up in the comments. You people are the reason we do this podcast. Robert and I do not exist. Literally, if you people were not here, we would disappear like the kids in Back to the Future from a photograph if the comment section was not here cheering us on. So Thursday, check out that interview. We're going to run the Duval clip on all feeds, the video and audio. And we'll see y'all next week. We'll hopefully have some more good stuff for you, everybody. Stick around for Thursday and see you on Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you on Monday. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And by the way, we will have good stuff on Monday. Get ready. Well, lots of good stuff.
So, yes, we will.
Oh, yeah. Very good stuff. But Adam, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for a good episode as always. And thank you all for watching.
Thanks for bringing the heat. We'll see everybody next week.
See you, everybody.